We just think that question 2 is a bad solution in search of a problem that doesn't exist. And I think when you have the proponents in, I know you're going to ask them, what are you trying to solve here? And I think between Tim Cruz and myself, we represent about 20% of the entire Commonwealth. And we can tell you that if the problem they're trying to solve is that people are going to jail for possession of under an ounce of marijuana, well, that's just not true. If they're going to tell you that there's an expense that's going to be saved by this, the two of us in the trenches working with police prosecutors would tell you that's not true. It's not solving that problem. In fact, there's some unanticipated problems that would occur with this too. You would have so many battles using up state resources at the drug lab for certifications, having court cases surrounding whether or not it's actually an ounce or not. You're creating a whole set of more costly problems than the way it's dealt with now. And they're going to tell you that people are losing college funding and they're getting a criminal record. And that's not true, because there's a mandatory sentencing in place here. And I suggest even the opponents, the proponents of this, are going to like that mandatory sentence that exists now. And that's the fact that if someone is in this situation with less than an ounce, under law, that's continued without a finding, and then it's dismissed after 6 months. So they don't have a record. They don't have a conviction. And in fact, what they won't tell you is, if they're worried about the whole Corey issue, and don't get sidetracked on Corey when they come in, if they're going to talk about the whole Corey issue, there's one thing they should be able to answer. That's the fact that with these kind of offenses, number one, a lot of them in our offices never even get to the arraignment stages. I have a program, alternative prosecution, a diversion type program. It's pre-arraignment. The people never even get arraigned. It's a much better system than they're proposing. It says they're going to tell the parents, and then what happens after that?
Which we've actually been doing since 2003. We've had the juvenile diversion program for, I think, 25 years, of which, if a kid 16 or under gets arrested in a number of offenses, or if they get charged with a criminal offense, they can do some community service, something good for the area, and in that case will be, usually it's either no process or it's dismissed prior to arraignment. And the juvenile record is sealed. Okay?
So, but through those, I'm just asking, I have no idea the extent of the number of people who might be affected currently.
In 2007, there were 7,007 arraignments for possession Class D throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Okay, and of those 7,000 or so, roughly, my understanding is about 4,000 of them were some form of an arrest. Being the others are all summons returnables. So you're talking that sort, and usually of those 4,000, I don't have to break down the numbers with something else, but that's in the ballpark that you're talking about.
Is pot the only Class D?
Yeah, yeah, and the various strengths of it, because you have A's, like A's heroin and the opiates, B's crack cocaine. They have a lot of prescription medications that are C's and E's. B is also LSD or something like that. But in our situation, when we started doing the adult diversion program, it's been really a huge success because kids get arrested. Say like if you have a college in your community, like I have Bridgewater State, and say there's a big party and a bunch of kids get arrested. And the kids are already in college, and all of a sudden, usually on a Monday you'll go to court and you'll see 25 young kids who have never been in court before, and they're there, and they're now for the first time going to get an opportunity to, before their arraignment, they're going to say, listen, you know what, you've been arrested for alcohol or pot, and we're going to give you an opportunity to take a course down at High Point down in Plymouth. You're going to pay for it. It's going to cost you $100, $120. Go to these 4 different courses. If you do that, and you come back and with proof of that, we'll dismiss it prior to arraignment. So there's never even an entrance on the Corey that they're talking about. And Bill is right, Corey reform is a different issue. That's really, we're talking about an issue here. Question 2 is going to affect everybody. What the proponents of question 2 are talking about are going to affect, if you believe what they say, a very small group of individuals. And when they talk about student loans, when they talk about they're not going to be able to get jobs, and that entire litany of information, which quite honestly is not accurate, and quite honestly also their numbers talking about saving $30 million, I think is reckless. I don't know where they come up with these numbers. They have these economists from Harvard, they allege, but they completely ignore really what's going to happen with these quote-unquote citations. If it is a citation, which is going to be like a traffic citation, if you get a speeding ticket, You have a right to, within 10 days of receiving that ticket, to request a hearing in front of a clerk magistrate. I assume that's what happened with this also. So now I'm doing the exact same thing with these new tickets. I'm going to be going to court. And now you're going to have your hearing in front of a clerk magistrate. If he finds no cause to go forward, it would be the end of it right there. If he finds that there is sufficient probable cause to go forward, he can say, okay, you're going to pay $100. You can appeal that, go to a judge, we're going to bring the police officer in anyways, he's going to have to testify. We're going to have to also make sure that the drugs have been analyzed, because we're going to have to send them in, and we're also going to have to weigh them. And think of it, now you have an ounce. So these drug dealers, and Bill already talked about them a little bit, drug dealers may not be educated all the time, but they're not stupid. And they know that they're going to be carrying less than an ounce of marijuana with them. And they're not going to have it packaged up. They're going to have scales and the rolling papers and things such as that. They'll probably have it packaged in the most innocuous form going. So the real effect, I think, of question 2, it's going to affect all of us, suburban, rural, but the real effect of it's going to be in the urban areas. And that's why you have like Reverend Jeffrey Brown from the Boston 10-Point Coalition out there saying that we don't need more weed, is what he's talking about. And he's absolutely right, because the pounds of marijuana are going to be brought to the urban areas, and they're going to shave off an ounce, and then these guys are going to be going around. And if you catch me moving an ounce, it's a big deal. $600 for an ounce of marijuana can get anywhere between 40 to 60 joints, depending on how fat you want to roll. And at that point, you're going to be out there selling this $100. Bang, here you go. So I'm just going to drive the cost up to, say, $700 an ounce, because that's what I'm going to do. Because now I'm a businessman, and you can't hurt me with this, because there's no penalty for second and sub. I can do it as much as I want. And you can't do anything to me, because you know what? I'm not applying for a federal loan. I'm not trying to get a job, because I'm a drug dealer. I don't have a real job out there. This is what I'm doing. And once again, drug dealers who are out there that are selling marijuana, don't think they're more kinder and more genteel than the drug dealers who are peddling crack or heroin or anything else. Talk to the parents in Mansfield, that poor boy, that 18-year-old kid that was murdered last June after he graduated from Mansfield High School, involved in a transaction for, I think, a pound of marijuana. He was murdered. We've had murders in Brockton because of the proceeds of marijuana, because it's so expensive. And that's it, because if you're talking about heroin, $3 a bag. All right, so you can get a bundle of 10 for $25. It's so cheap, it's so pure. And that's the other thing with the marijuana, it's so pure. It's so much stronger now than it was back in the 70s or 80s. Because right now, back then, it's 9 times stronger now for the THC that's in the marijuana. The heroin 20 years ago was 15–20% pure. You see stuff on the streets now that's 85–90% pure. You have kids putting that stuff in their veins and dying. And that's why we have overdoses in heroin. And my fear of this is the first step. This is the first step to the legalization of marijuana, and then where are we going from there? What are they going to try to legalize next?